Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best of the best to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today's guest is a very special one. Her name is Izabel Gallera, the partner at Canary. Izabel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for the invitation and for having me in this chat. Exciting.
Yeah, as we were talking before our recording, I've been listening to you for several hours of your Canary Cast podcast. I strongly recommend your podcast for the ones who want to know more about the Brazilian and LATAM ecosystem. It is in Portuguese, so you would need to speak Portuguese, but definitely recommend, and having a lot of fun learning more about you and your portfolio and some of the lessons learned. And today, that's a great privilege to have you here. And for the ones who didn't have the chance yet to meet you, who is Izabel?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the Canary Cast jabá, how we say in Portuguese, and for hearing also. It's a pleasure being here. Well, I'm Brazilian, Mike. I studied industrial engineering. I started my career in banking and quickly moved to the operating side. I spent a few years in consumer goods, working mostly in finance. But the first professional awakening that I had was actually working at a startup in Brazil that I had joined very, very early on. It was a great experience back in 2014, 15. When the startup ecosystem in Brazil was very raw. But I realized that I wanted to be in that world. And that's why a few years later, I joined Endeavor, an NGO that supports entrepreneurs globally. And through Endeavor, I met my founding partners, my partners at Canary, and then joined the team. VC was not necessarily something that I had planned. It was when I was in college, actually, I didn't even know what VC was. For me, what actually caught my attention in the industry when I was deciding to come was basically partnering with people that I admired, that I shared values with. Right. And given the industry was so incipient, I was really excited, and I'm still very excited to build the industry in Latin America. So I saw a lot of opportunities, and here I am.
That's really a great story, and I would like to go deeper into also your evolution within Canary, joining as an associate, and now of course being a partner of Canary already for a significant amount of time. But before, you and Canary both have a great reputation around founders, especially you completely transformed the way preseed investment is made or was made in Brazil at the time, and now it keeps being made in a much better way. There is a time, someone said there's a time before Canary and after Canary in that regard. But again, if you could also present Canary or your investment thesis, et cetera, that would be great.
Yes, of course. Well, there's a lot to be done yet. So it's an ongoing process of changing the industry to a better industry, but still a lot to go. Canary, right. Talking about Canary, we lead first rounds in Latin America. So Canary was actually the first firm to actually focus on early stage first investments in Latin. That was in 2017. Our first investment was literally January 2017. And we've always positioned ourselves as the leader of institutional rounds in the region. We are agnostic in terms of industries or business models, and our focus is partnering with great teams that want to solve huge problems in Latin America, and that's pretty much our thesis. We in terms of like who are the founders that we want to partner with, we actually analyze like 40 criterias on founding team, and the major clusters that I can say is our operational background, meaning that, what that person has built already. Ambition is a huge bucket for us. What is his or her vision for the future? And I think the vision of the founder has to be compatible with our vision as a fund. Another bucket is the ability to build teams and sell dreams. That is super important when you're building something from scratch, right? And something that we call founder market fit. So is that team's expertise and background has the compatibility with what they want to build. So there's no silver bullet or fixed playbook to decide whether to partner with a team or not. It's always a combination of multiple factors, but that's an overview.
And I've learned also on your podcast that you like to be in touch with founders during the ideation process as early as possible and to help them through the process and to get to know each other. So maybe there is also a question out there for the ones who are thinking about starting a company. When is the right time to reach out to you or to your colleagues at Canary? When do you think it's the right timing for that?
I think there's a question of timing and there's a question of how to reach us. So I'll answer the first one.
Good point. First. That's true.
But for us, it's if you want to reach us, regardless of your timing, someone has to introduce you to us. We actually receive like hundreds of connections and messages per day. So we cannot necessarily be super fast on answering all of them. So our LinkedIn, our email boxes are completely insane. So I do ask that if you want to reach out to Canary, please find a way to be introduced to us. And we have a wide network in LATAM as a whole, our founders, invested founders, through our actually LPs or network. So find someone that can vouch you for us. So that will make this introduction much easier. And the timing question, Mike, yes, actually we love to meet people even before they have an idea. So Canary is a people-driven business. We invest in people, and those people will hire more people to build businesses, right? So it's not about the idea or the business itself. We know that all of that can change the day after we decide to invest, but it's all about the people. So we have to have conviction that we want to partner with that team, and obviously the team wants to partner with us throughout the next decade or so. So we're looking at long-term relationship. So the right timing is if you're thinking about maybe starting a business at some point, I would love to meet you. So please get an introduction from someone in our network, and then we'll have a conversation and see how / if Canary can help you throughout this discovery / ideation process. We do have some ways to help in a structured way to make your process more assertive, but again, it's always the right timing for the person, not necessarily for Canary. It's a life decision, right, Mike? Not necessarily a career one. So, yeah. But
I love
we love
that expression, life decision.
Yeah,
really.
It is, right? But we do love to nurture
Definitely.
and build relationships throughout this process. Maybe we can help.
And I assume that sometimes it happens that people figure out during the process that maybe the timing is not right for them, not because of the idea, as you said, or the business or the vertical that they were working on, but because they are not ready yet. And maybe it's better to do something else and then come back again when the timing is right. Did it happen to you already sometime?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, timing is something that we can't control, right? None of us can. So for us, even if we meet someone that, is not fundraising or is not ready to fundraise yet or don't have a business yet, we want to, again, learn about this person, meet this person, see if we can help with anything. And then when is the right time for both parties, we will get in touch again and see how we go, see the next steps in a very organic way.
That's nice. I really like that approach of relationship building and really supporting. I think that's also a differentiation of Canary towards other experiences that founders have with other funds, especially very early stage. So it's good to know that, of course, we know that everyone is super busy, founders, investors, etc. And of course, it's good to have this network on the portfolio to get a warm intro. But then after that filter, that we are able to have a relationship to get to know each other and see if there is a fit to, as you said, there is something really important that sometimes, especially for first time founders, it is not easy to understand, which is the fit between the startup thesis and the investment thesis, right? So it doesn't mean that the business is not good, but it doesn't fit, for instance, even the VC industry or the thesis of the fund that we are speaking with.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a great first homework for founders to do, is understanding what is the right profile for investors, considering his or her business model or thesis or project. But we again, Mike, I think that's part of building the VC industry as well. We have to reduce the asymmetry of information, and that means sometimes just talk about our thesis and how the fund works to founders to guarantee that they have the information that is not necessarily super explicit. There's not necessarily out there for founders to learn. So it can become easier for you to guarantee that you're talking to the right investor for you.
And I can assure you that if you are listening and thinking who can give you an introduction, or founders are super happy to help in that regard. We had several founders from Canary on the show already, namely Isadora from Nilo, Bruno from Go Goods, Tiago from Vidia, and of course I'm forgetting Steph from Oya Care, and
you
more
like
and more.
Healthcare.
Yes, and I love health tech and healthcare. Given my personal experience last year with an autoimmune condition, I'm a little bit obsessed to learn more about
it's a great industry.
health tech. Yeah, and you have a great portfolio also in that specific industry.
Well, I'm biased, but I do think so.
Yes, I've also read some of your LinkedIn posts, especially close to the pandemic or during the pandemic, where you also, for obvious reasons, gave a lot of attention to that specific vertical. And definitely. Great people to speak with. Is there any companies that would like to highlight, or successful stories that you'd like to highlight from your fund, and maybe some lessons learned that we can collect and we can share with other founders that are listening to us?
We only have 1 hour, right? Well, I could spend hours just sharing portfolio companies' stories, but maybe there's one that I can share. The one that I'm very, very proud of is not a healthcare company necessarily, but it's called Guppy. Guppy is a HR tech. That started as an ATS, or applicant tracking software, and it was born with the purpose to help HRs to be much more efficient and giving candidates a better experience on the other side. Guppy was founded by 4 people. Mariana is the CEO, and before she started Guppy, she was like an HR leadership at ABI InBev. Which it has been known in Brazil as a very good source of quality talent. So when Canary invested in Guppy, that was 2017, was the first year of our fund, of our fund one. They had like a few months of runway. There was a real risk of shutting the operation down, but we got in and they kept going. Guppy's they are a HR solution that is becoming sexy now. It was never sexy in Latin, and now after many years in the market, the founders are rock star, rock stars, but they never had they were never in the spotlight, and they don't have the collection of stamps that you think would be necessary to start a company back in 2015 in Brazil when they started.
Wow.
So they are underdogs, and never had an easy time fundraising, never. So there were many times, many very, very hard times actually after our investment, lots of downs throughout the years, and they not only overcame each one of those challenges, but they mastered it. That's why I really like this story. This year, a couple of months ago, Guppy has reached 1 million people hired through the platform. That's a huge milestone.
Wow.
It also acquired its main competitor here in Brazil.
Okay.
It has acquired another company to embrace other parts of the recruiting process. So, and they're almost a monopoly in this space in Brazil, and that's a huge successful story for our portfolio, and one that we are very, very proud of. The founding team is amazing. All the credit has to go to them, to the founders and the whole Guppy team. But so we can see a lot of resilience, a lot of grit, and amazing execution capabilities. So that's basically how I think about the Guppy team, and I'm very proud of them.
Thanks for bringing that story and the inspiration, and also sharing the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, yeah.
There is, again, a great episode of the Canary cast with Mariana that I had the chance to listen. I really listened to the podcast.
I can see that. Thank you so much.
Not just being polite and saying, yes, I listened to almost even the last one about nowadays we should hire based on time zones, not based on specific geographies, and the opportunity for American and Canadian companies to also leverage the Spanish speaking and the Portuguese speaking or Brazilian ecosystems to hire new tech people. But that's definitely a great story for the ones who want to know more. Also, Maria and I also follow her on LinkedIn, and I think that's also the kind of posts and insights that she shares are definitely amazing. So good to know more about her story, and what you see in those successful founding teams. Do you think it's kind of course, I would say. It's the complementarity between the founders that they cover the main areas of expertise that are critical to build and scale a company. It's really the also being able to be committed to the problem for a very long time. So what are some of the patterns that you see on founding teams that are able to succeed, and founding teams that of course learn a lot but things don't go so well as all of us would desire?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would love to have the right answer. I just have maybe an interpretation of the information that we already have.
Facts that you see.
Yeah, but ask me again in 5 years, and I'll have learned more. But I think I can put in buckets. I think resilience is one, as I just shared Guppy's story. I don't think they would made it if the team was not resilient, if they didn't have the grit to do it. If they were not motivated to overcome those challenges. It's really hard when the down comes. It's really, really hard. You have to have some strength that is supernatural, maybe to keep going. And I think when you have co-founders, that helps. You share, the worries and the lack of strength sometimes with other people. So I think that helps. But I don't see having co-founders necessarily as a deal breaker factor. I do see resilience and grit as one main pillar. The other one is capability of literally execute, like building a team and manage people and, leadership, and be very good with, going from strategy to tactical and operation when you have to do that, and building an amazing team. I think that's one amazing team, very motivated team. That's how you actually scale. And again, that helps when you have more than one co-founder, because you can share the burden, but I don't see that as necessarily a deal breaker. But I think execution capability, resilience / grit, those are two very, very important pillars. And one thing that I would add is learning ability for the founders specifically. When you start a company, you have like a blank page, and every time that you write something in that page, you have to learn, but not necessarily in a linear way. You have to learn in an exponential way. So you have to be much, much better every month, every year that goes by. And that means not only regarding, how to operate and build a company, but also, and I think that's very important, how to fundraise. We live in a context that capital is not necessarily given. So it's a variable, right? And it's scarce. It has been becoming less scarce, but still, it's not necessarily everywhere. And you cannot see capital as something that is guaranteed. So I don't think founders can take fundraising for granted. The process is very important. It's not the end goal, of course. It's just a tool to give you more time to figure things out. But it is an important tool when you're going towards the VC path, right? But I think those three main pillars are very important.
I love it. The resilience, the execution, and the learning ability pillars, the three pillars that you're talking about, of the traits that you see in successful founding teams. And you also said that a solo founder is not something that would be a deal breaker. How do you see solo founders? What is your position? There are some funds that said that they would not invest if there are not at least two co-founders. Then there are some positions that we can go, that's funds that also don't like to see too many co-founders in the same founding team, but usually the conversation is more about one or two. And what is your position and your thoughts on that? Also, given your experience with several founders.
Again, would love to have the right answer, but I have no clue what is better. I think it really depends on the people, right? On the person. I think it's better for you to be solo founder instead of just hiring a co-founder that you're probably going to have to divorce in a couple of years. I think having a partnership as strong as co-founding a company is something really, really deep. Right? It's a marriage. It's sometimes it's even more intense than a marriage. So for me, if you have the lucky to have a marriage with someone that you respect, you admire, and there is if the person is in the right timing that you are to start a business, because that's again timing, something that we cannot control. I think that's a privilege. Of course, if we're going to measure everything, of course, it's better for you to share, the success and the losses sometimes too with someone that is an equal partner and you admire and you can rely on. Otherwise, it's on you, and I think that can be a heavy burden to carry for some people. I don't think that's true for everyone. So if you have a possibility to have co-founders, again, that you admire, that you respect, that share the same values with you, they are looking to the future the same way that you are, I think that's great. And you cannot underestimate timing, because that's really important. You have to be in the boat together. Otherwise, it won't last. But yeah, I think that's the main thing. You mentioned it's a different set of skills. Honestly, my opinion, that's my personal opinion, is that is a nice to have, not necessarily a must have when you think about co-founders. I really think the first bucket of values, respect, admiration, and having the person as a partner, and I think for the long term. I think that's much more important than, technical skills or product skills or whatever, because those skills, those hard skills, you can hire. You cannot hire someone to be your co-founder, right? So that's my view of this topic. But if you don't find someone and you really want to start a business and you're up to do that alone, go for it. I mean, you have obviously to build a strong founding team for you to be able to scale. Otherwise, everything will be on you, and you don't want that. But I think building a strong founding team can work too. It has worked for many of the companies that we invest in.
And in that sense, when you're talking about building a great founding team as a solo founder, would be to have those early employees that maybe you can also give them some equity, but of course a minority stake. And of course, at that time, you have also raised your first round, and you are able to also have a compensation package plus the equity component that will make them feel a little bit more owners of that vision, of that purpose, and of that startup to walk with you through the ups and downs of the journey.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, you have to hire people that you trust and that are building the company with you, not for you, with you. And I think giving equity and SOPs and a piece of the company is important in order to everyone be actually aligned. But seniority is important to think about too, and the ability of those key hires to build their own teams and to manage and to actually build the strategy and the company with you too, as a founder.
And also be careful with those first hires, right? So don't be too desperate that you would take anyone that would accept. Really make sure that you have the right people joining you, because again, it is not a marriage as having a co-founder, but anyway, it's still an important position in the cap table.
For sure. And you have to have like legal tools to protect the company and yourself as a founder, like vesting and cliff. That's really, really important.
Right. Good points to have here. Awesome. And of course, I don't like to talk too much about the dark side, but it's part of it. And I would say we are in an outlier business. The VC industry is like that. So we know that we are fighting against the odds. The majority of the companies will not be able to become unicorns or to scale to transform industries and solve problems for a lot of people and improve society. But still, there are a lot of lessons learned for the ones who would like to really transform and make the future difference. So, what is? Of course, I will not ask you for names because I know it's not. It doesn't make any sense. But it's much more collecting again in terms of the patterns. What are some of the lessons learned from those companies who didn't go so well, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's part of the game, right? To hit some walls and sometimes don't come back from it. I think if we think about the pre-seed / seed to the Series A, which is basically the first sprint of Canary invested companies, I would say that from 0 to 1, exactly. Or sometimes a little before 1, from 0 to 0.9, something like that. But I think I've
great
mentioned
investors
here
as well, the 0.9 capital guys in Europe.
Cool, yeah. So I think I've mentioned here, but most companies that don't make it, and I'm not saying Series A is a milestone for the company itself. I'm just using that as a timing, let's say visibility to make the visibility better. For this example, so companies that we've Canary invested in that don't make it to Series A, they're usually because of the lack of capability to fundraise or to understand the game of fundraising, or to be able to actually play this game. And I say that because raising those first rounds are not necessarily correlated in a straightforward way to traction or product market fit. Many times, founders that do understand the game and do play it well can raise Series A rounds, sometimes even Series B rounds, without having a lapidated product market fit or a lapidated, like a very good, outstanding traction. So, and I think fundraising, again, capital is a tool to give you more time to figure things out, especially in this beginning. If you don't have the right, if you don't know how to use those tools and how to play the game to catch those tools, I think you can hit a wall when there's nothing you can do because you won't have time to figure things out. The time will basically, you run out of time and run out of cash. So you basically die without having a product market fit or a solution that is validated or so on and so forth. So I do think that if you choose to go towards the VC path, at some point your money is going to run. You're going to run out of money. You will need some more money to keep going and to validate and to build a solution and a product and so on and so forth. So you have to play the game. We at Canary, we really help founders on that end. So we have a much higher average of companies converting from seed to Series A than the market. And in Fund 1, for you to have a clear view, Mike, 60% of the companies that we invest in actually raised the next subsequent round after Canary. And we had modeled the fund before for that conversion to be 45 to 50%. So it's much higher than what we did. Actually, is much higher than what we was thinking at the beginning of the fund, and the average of the target, not necessarily the target, but just the model. And the average of the market is much lower. It's like closer to 25%. So we do help in a hands-on way founders in that sense, and we believe we're successful on that. But again, the founder has to own this and to lead this game. That's really important. And again, that's my phrase here is only valid if you actually want to go towards the VC path. There are plenty of other ways for you to raise capital or for you to guarantee that you have time and cash to build a company. VC is only one of the potential paths.
And again, in a certain way, not only, but also related with a life decision in a certain way, right? So
for sure,
maybe in some cases it's also possible to go through the bootstrapping path, or even to build an interesting business that doesn't have the growth potential in such a short period of time. But maybe you can sustain it for 10 or 20 years and even get a good exit for being having a majority shareholder position on that company. So that's a different world and a different mindset. It's kind of more of Bill Gates. I prefer to have less that's something that is big than have a lot of something that is small, but still. Yeah. Sometimes the numbers work for the small. Exactly. I really enjoyed also the thought-provoking notes on solo founders and founding teams. Very refreshing for the typical advice of have a technical co-founder and a business co-founder. And if you don't have those two, don't knock on our door because we don't believe in those kind of founding teams. So I really like the approach. And maybe you talked about that, and that's true. Sometimes it's difficult to benchmark a Series A of one company to another. The metrics are quite different, and sometimes it even happened to me. I assumed that those kind of companies would have certain kind of metrics, and then when I start talking to the founders and going a little bit deeper, of course, in confidence and making it confidential, I understand that some of them didn't even get into product market fit that we believe kind of a prerequisite to raise a Series A. And you talked about the importance of being comfortable that we need to be raising every 18 months, and we need to keep relationships with funds and also being a step ahead of the curve. And sometimes even thinking that what we need to think about the long, the mid, and the short term. So what we need to achieve in order to have the metrics that we need to raise the next round, but start working for the round after. So how do we get from $1 million to $5 million or $5 million to $10 million? If we are not working already at this stage, in the next stage, it might be super difficult to get there during the 12 or 18 months of that stage of the company. Of course, this is also the ideal playbook, because at the end of the day, every company has their growth plateaus and their ups and downs, and doesn't work as we would love to have in the playbook. But anyway, that's a good reference to understand what to do and what not to do. So if you would need to summarize a little bit some of those lessons in terms of pre-seed fundraising, what would you say in terms of do's and don'ts of fundraising?
It's a good question. And with pre-seed, I mean, it's all about the team mostly, right? Because there's no business yet. So it's hard for us to give you some light on numbers or traction or, value proposition, validations, and so forth. I think for us, if we're not fully convicted that we want to partner with that team specifically, we will ask for more validations of the business. That means, okay, let's wait and see if the team is actually executing and how is the execution going, and if the business itself is going towards a direction that we want to partner with. We want to be in their journeys. So it's really not one factor that counts. It's a lot of factors. Sometimes we really like the team, but we are not so comfortable with the business itself, like with the market and the potential, let's say, optionalities of that business, of the problem of the market. So again, we'll wait and see, okay, let's see more validations to see which direction the business will go. And then we see if we're comfortable with the market as well. I think for us, it's really important to, again, team is the first layer of analysis always. Right. But the second one is that market big enough that will embrace a company that is big enough to pay the returns of our fund in the length of period that we need to. Like we have 10, right. 12 years of life of the fund. So in 10, 12 years, depending on when we invest, will that company be like worth billions of dollars in order to pay the $100 million fund that we have today? So we have to basically understand that outcome is a true possibility with all the risks involved. Of course, everything is risky in that industry, but we have to see that, okay, that can be possible. And if we don't see that this possibility, and right. Again, it's 99% of the times, 99.3% of the times, if we don't see that possibility, we won't back the company because it doesn't make any sense for our business model, for Canary's investment model. So right. There are those two. And sometimes we like the team so much that we don't really care about the market size. But those teams that we like so much that we don't care about market size are teams that usually have founded many companies, are with us like for many years. We have invested in them before sometimes. We know them very well. So we're very convicted. They could like start maybe a retail store that we would back, but those are very, very special ones and a few ones. So usually we have this, let's say, weight in, is this business going to be big enough?
Right. And something that is important to understand, we talk a lot about focus, but it's definitely to understand that you need to have a big team, but you don't need to go for the big team from day one. So you can start with a niche of that team to start with, and with a specific segment. Sometimes I would say that even the pre-seed stage is really about playing with what are the segments of that where we can have the better stickiness to acquire in the best way before starting expanding into other segments and opportunities of that and the good thing as well, if we have a good big TAM, is the potential to pivot and to test. If it is too niche, it would be almost impossible to pivot, and the decision is, or we need to completely change the vertical or the idea, which makes things even more difficult for the founding team and for the founders.
Completely. Yeah. And there's also a part that is more subjective, but since we have talked to like thousands and thousands of teams, so we have gathered some pattern recognition on team analysis, and we understand when the person really has a vision that is compatible with ours, and we can see when the person is just saying that and really doesn't mean that. So for us, even if the first sprint is a niched first sprint, is a smaller TAM, when we know the person and when we understand that his or her or her ambition will be compatible with ours in the long run, we're going for the long run. It's not for the first sprint. It's never for the first sprint. So we do want to understand the vision, how the person thinks, what the person wants to live in the world, what is his or her motivation, grit, and so on and so forth. So it's not a black and white kind of analysis. And of course, we can be wrong many times. And I mean, that's part of our game too. So it's not necessarily our decision that will make it or break it for the company, right? Like really not. But and we can be wrong. We are wrong. We will be wrong. So that's something that is part of the game too.
We have a lot of people that that listen to the show that would also like to, at a certain point, to follow an investment career, or I would say that any startup founder at the same time would like to become an angel investor or to be a venture partner in a fund or something. But kind of based on your experience of becoming more and more relevant within Canary and becoming a partner of Canary. So what advice would you give to other people that are considering to joining a firm as an associate and becoming more and more important in that firm?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't think there's right or wrong here or a playbook. Yeah. If you want to join VC is like a huge world, considering that you have seed funds, pre-seed funds, like very early stage funds like Canary, and you have like growth funds, almost like a PE fund that is so different. So you have to understand where you want to play in this VC track, because the expertise is different in each stage. Your role, operational role, like your executive role, will be different. So that's the first homework if you want to join VC. And once you choose the stage that you wanna partner with, or have an experience with, you have to basically understand how the game is played. You have to understand what are the firms that are, the ones that you would like to join, and start talking to people and basically creating your own network. VC is still a closed industry, like in terms of people are, it's a bubble, wanting that or not. Specifically in Latin America, I think the US is much more evolved. But it's a bubble. So people know each other, and there's not a lot of job openings that are posted, let's say like that. So you have to know people to see if you fit in that firm, and to actually hear about openings. Otherwise, it's hard for you to understand to learn and have visibility. There's an opening there. So, and once you're in, you have to be, depending on the stage that you are, you have to be on your A+ game.
Right.
And the A+ game is different in seed or Series Bs and Cs and growth.
And I would say that, again, your 3 traits that help founding teams to succeed or to be closer to succeed might apply also for people that would like to join the investment career.
That's
also
true.
This learning ability, right? And the resilience, because it can also be quite training in terms of the emotional roller coaster that is to be in touch with founders. So
that's
and I
true.
know that as an advisor as well, that sometimes we feel the emotions of the people that we have in front of us. And of course, in my case, also building my own vehicle, and in your case, that you are a partner as well. We are also building a business in a certain way. So, and we can empathize with other sides of the table. And it's, by the way, it's difficult to have separate emotions, to not be contagiated by those emotions, because in a certain way we can also help more when we can be a little bit more impartial. But it's not easy. I'm still learning how to do that and how to not be contagiated after that tough call with a founder in a down or in a low moment. So let's go into the final quick question and answer format, where I ask you a quick self-reflective question, and also around resources, and our guests give us a quick answer. So if you'd have the opportunity to meet Izabel at the beginning of your journey at Canary, what advice would you offer to your younger self?
Maybe go out there sooner, like go chase opportunities since day 0.
Love it. And what are you the most proud of on your journey so far?
It's a good question. Maybe I've been the first woman to make it to a VC partnership in Brazil, and to have helped enabling dozens of women to start their own businesses.
Good topic that we should have approached it, but next time when you join the second time the show. Third one is worst advice ever received.
The worst one? Maybe that you need to start a company in order to be respected as an investor.
Okay. Again, another one that we could follow up a lot on that. We should have started with the 3 questions first, and then we'll feed our conversation. And now the resources. And your favorite book, Business on Business. What would you recommend?
My favorite book? I'm not going on business side here now. Right now, I'm actually obsessed with the autobiography of Rita Lee, a Brazilian singer and composer. She's a symbol of women empowerment, and her book is amazing. It's in Portuguese too. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Was Alex, our podcast producer, who really challenged me to ask these questions at the end of the show, and I was a little bit, should we do this or not? And I'm being every single episode, I'm being surprised with the recommendations, and we learned so much. So, favorite movie or series? As you wish.
Tons of movies, but I'll go with a show that I love, and I won't lie. Friends. Friends is my favorite show.
Wow. And finally, your favorite podcast. As a podcaster, I'm very curious to see what
can
you
I
would
say
select.
Canary Cast or
of course, but beyond Canary Cast.
Without Canary Cast. Yeah. I really like Acquired. I really like it.
Yeah. I need to check that one because it was already been mentioned from previous guests, and definitely I need to go there.
It's a famous one, yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. Izabel, would you like to share any final message, any note, something that I should have asked that I didn't ask before we wrap up?
I think I just want to reinforce that at Canary, we want to partner with founders that are building or plan to build businesses in Latin America. So we're not necessarily only looking at Brazil, we're looking at the whole region. So we've invested in 9 countries so far in the region, both Brazil and Spanish-speaking countries. So we're very proud of that. There's no too early for us. So if you're thinking about starting a business and if you have a way into someone at Canary, please feel free to reach out and to ask for the intro. We would love to meet the next generation of founders in LATAM. So that's basically it.
Awesome. Izabel, thanks so much for making the time. It was really a pleasure to host you on the podcast after listening so many hours of Canary Cast. I'm super, super happy to have you on the show, and congrats on the amazing career. And you need to come back also to inspire other women that want to make a career in the VC ecosystem and in the tech ecosystem.
Thank you so much,
Thanks again,
Mike. Thanks again for the invitation and for being a great listener to the Canary Cast. It was a great conversation. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. And to our community, as you see, we keep bringing you the best founders and investors to make your life a little bit easier. Being it from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, or 10 to 100, we are here with you to make your life a little bit easier. See you soon and keep scaling.